What up, Facebook? What's up, brothers? Welcome to the Sunday sermon with your host, Mike the Mentor. Welcome. Every Sunday, about this time, 9:15, I talk about my life and some of the events that have happened. And right now, we're just kind of chronologically going through some main times in my life. And that happens every Sunday. And every day, the purpose of this page is just to post some new content, really in a goal to be vulnerable with you guys, but also to encourage you and to give you hope on your life as men, right? And to help you step into this higher calling that we have as fathers and husbands and employees, employers, productive members of our society. The world is crazy out there. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on, and it's because men have not answered this higher calling, and we've destroyed a lot of lives in the generation that's coming after us. And we've talked about how that's kind of been a systematic destruction since at least the beginning of culture in the Western society. And if you go back through my videos, one of the first ones on Fridays, we go through this workbook. Show you a little picture here. The Quest for Authentic Manhood by Robert M. Lewis, every Friday. But one of those episodes, the very first one, we take a look at manhood in the Western culture and how that started, right? And what that looked like, working a farm and having your son next to you all day long, learning the trade and seeing how you interacted with people, and how over time, because of advancements and changes in society, that pulled men away from the farm and into the factory. So then they were gone, right? And then when they would come home after 12 hours in the factory, they wouldn't have very much left for their family. Their family would get the leftovers, so to speak. And then the next generation, it pulled them, the wars pulled them out of the factories, so they were gone 8, 10, 12 months out of the year, sometimes longer, and they were coming back. And this was before we really knew, like we do today, the effects of mental health and PSTD and all these things, right? These men went to war and gave their lives and came back with horrific and crazy trauma, and they're bringing this into their home. So maybe they're physically present, but they're not emotionally or mentally present, and how that wrecked havoc on society. And then we had the rise of feminism, right? Like women had to answer this call and fill this void because men weren't willing, and in a lot of cases couldn't answer that call. So women said, all right, I'll step up to the plate, and they did what they had to. And that kind of morphed into maybe a radical, being radically feminized, where women believed that they were equal to men in a lot of different ways. And that morphed into men questioning, well, what am I here for? Why do you need me? Like, what's my place look like? And that left a lot of questions to be answered. And then today we have the rise of what's the technical term? Delayed adolescence, right? Where men aren't leaving the home until they're 30, 31, 32 years old, and not with the skill sets and the things that they need to be productive and thrive in the world, in families, right? They don't have that mental maturity of generations past. And it's just crazy. So the point of this channel is me to just take all this wisdom that I've learned over the years, because a lot of men have poured into me and mentored me along the way through a lot of these crazy situations that I've been through. And I want to take that and I want to pay that back and just help not only the next generation that's coming along, but any man who finds themselves in a place where they're struggling, right? Where they don't know what the future holds for them, whether it's in their marriage, whether it's at, they're in their career, they just find themselves drifting through life, leading silent, this silent life of unhappiness and incontentment, and they don't know how to break free and really enjoy life. And a lot of that is because we haven't addressed those things in our past and asked certain questions, tough questions, that need to be asked, and brought these things to light so they no longer have power over us. So if you're new to this page, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. And tonight we're gonna dive right in. So a quick recap. So last week I talked about my brother committing suicide. I was a sophomore in college. I have a younger sister. She was a freshman in college, and we had our younger brother. He was a senior in high school, and he committed suicide. Don't know why he chose to do that. My theory is just a series of tough events in his life cascaded and just kind of built this ball up right and got this thing rolling till the final event, which was him getting expelled from high school for sharing some pain pills with a person he thought was a friend, who went and turned him into the office to get some reward money for that. Was kind of the breaking point, the straw that broke the camel's back, if you will, and that sent him into a tailspin of him questioning what is his value, what is his worth in the world. And it took that wide lens picture that we all have, and it squeezed it down into a tiny little keyhole, so all that he could see in front of him was it wasn't much. All he could focus on, in my opinion, was what had just happened. The culmination of all the disappointment that took place in his year, and that's all he could focus on was, my life is not worth it. There's nothing in my future that I can look forward to, which is, as we know, is a lie. But when you're in that moment, all you can see is that one thing. And the crazy thing is God tried to intervene in his life that night that he drove to the high school and was gonna commit suicide. His best friend happened to cut through the parking lot and see him there and tried to talk to him and be a voice of reason and just an ear for him to talk to. But he, for whatever reason, didn't accept that help or that opportunity. And then the next day he proceeded to take his life once everyone went into school, and it set into motion this crazy, as you can imagine, tailspin, not only in our family but throughout our community and throughout the school, as because our family knew a lot of people, just from me playing basketball and having going through the high school, and then my sister running track, and we were this athletic family, and we just, a lot of people knew us, and a lot of people knew my brother and my grandparents and my mom, and so it just rocked the community, and it was tough, right? Like, because it's unexpected. You never know when anyone's going to pass away, or especially at such a young age. So it was crazy. And then, if you've been following these Sunday sermons, my dad has been in and out of my life at these various points. And I talked about how, at my brother's funeral, he had been gone for 2 years. Don't know where he had been. And I'm walking up the path to my brother's burial site, and a door opens, and it's my dad in a car, and he asked me to get in, and he's crying, and he's trying to make sense of this. And we talked for a little bit, and then I got to get out, and he promises me that he's going to be there now for me and my sister, because he realizes the magnitude of not having a father in the home, what happens, and the types of things that happen as a result of that, right? So tonight, we've got week 10 of the Sunday sermon. So I label this, I guess, title, Fighting to Live, right? I don't really script these when I'm going to do them. Like, God gave me laid this content out every day of what I'm supposed to talk about, but I just try to come fresh to you guys, and just really talk about what's on my heart and what's on my mind around the topic for that day. Other than Fridays, that's completely scripted out because that's not my content. I just share it with you because it's been so valuable in my life. But yeah, so this is a picture of me I'm pretty sure after I returned to school, after my brother's suicide. Maybe it was before. I want to say that it was after, though. Me trying to be somewhat tough, I guess. There, that macho aspect of male sports in college. But the Fighting to Live, I think, is an appropriate title because a lot of people don't know this. Like a lot of people would look at me and they would think, oh man, like, you played basketball because you loved it and it was fun, and your passion for hard work and all that's true, and even part of a bigger thing is, people just told me I couldn't. It took one kid to tell me that I wasn't going to make the ninth grade basketball team that set me on this mission to like prove him wrong. And that's kind of how I've operated my whole life. Is when someone tells me I can't do something, I'm gonna show you. I don't know why. That's just a huge motivation for me. Uh, to be the underdog and to prove somebody wrong. Um, so all that stuff about basketball was true, but really basketball my whole life has mainly been an escape for me. It was a way for me to get away from the dysfunction in the household that I grew up in. It was a way for me to get alone with myself, and really think about my life and what kind of life I wanted to have. And it really became therapy for me. And I didn't play basketball. I mean, I played basketball for all those reasons, but the biggest reason I played was to live, to survive, because there was just something so different about being out on the basketball court, whether it was just me shooting hoops in my driveway or late at night at the park by myself shooting, or, during games and at practices. It was just an escape from the reality that I knew I'd return to once that moment was over, and it allowed me to think through a lot of things and to process those. And like I said, it was therapy for me. So even more so after my brother committed suicide, when that happened, I want to say I stayed home for I think 2 weeks. My college was really accommodating. All my teachers, my professors, they told me that I could take my time and return when I was ready. And at first, I didn't know if I was going to return. My default mode when craziness happens is to take care of everybody else around me. I don't know where this came from. I don't know how I got in this operating mode, but when the stuff hits the fan, like, I don't worry about myself. I worry about others that are in my life and about their immediate needs. And I don't say that to like brag. I just say that to explain to you, like, that's my thought process. And I don't know why this switch just flips and it's like, all right, I'm going to take care of these people. Like, I'm going to make sure that everyone else is taken care of. And then maybe once all that dies down and fades away, then I'll attend to myself. So I just want to provide you some context as I move into this story more, about dealing with my brother's suicide. So I explained last week, but after my brother died, it was really tough because we lived in the basement at my grandparents' house. Me, my brother, and my sister. Well, me and my brother, my sister had a room upstairs. But my room was at the end of the hall, and my brother's room was right before mine. So every night when I would go to bed, he would usually be in his room, laying on his bed, talking on the phone or doing homework or something when I walked by. And after he died, every time I'd walk down the hallway, I would just hope beyond hope and wish beyond wish that I would see him in there in his bedroom, and this would all just be a crazy dream, and I would wake up. And every night you that doesn't happen, right? And you kind of relive that all over again, that little bit of disappointment. um, you don't want to admit reality. And I would lie in my bed and I would look up at the ceiling, and I would hope, some of the times I would hope that I would hear him in there laughing, his goofy laugh, or, I'd get up to go to the bathroom and walk by and look in the room and wish, that I'd wake up, that he'd be there. I was just waiting for that moment, for this all to end and for it to be just the worst nightmare that I've ever had. But that wasn't the case. And I actually had something pretty crazy happen to me one night. And I don't remember the timing because it's been so long. But I want to say it was within that week after this happened. I was sleeping and I woke up and I saw my brother at the end of my bed. And he was standing there. And I went forward to give him a hug. And he looked at me. And when the look that he gave me let me know that it wasn't that I wasn't awake, that I had actually woken up from one dream into another, and that was the dream I was in. And I realized that, and I said to him, I said, "This is a dream, isn't it?" And he just shook his head, "Yes." And then like that, I woke up, and he was gone. And man, that in some ways that was an answer to prayer, right? Because I wanted to see my brother again, and I was able to in that dream. But in other ways, that was really tough, because though I got to see him, it wasn't permanently, right? Permanently, that's not a word. Maybe it's, whatever. That wasn't permanent. And I had to go back to living this life of, once again, hoping that this was all a bad dream and that he would be there, right? I didn't want to face reality. So after a week or so of being home and talking with some people in my life who encouraged me that I need to kind of get back on the horse and continue my life and see this thing out, right? I was the first male in my family to, I was on track to be the first male in my family to graduate from college. So it was a big deal. But I was carrying a lot of uncertainty, and I was a little bit, I was a little bit depressed, and I didn't realize it and recognize it at the time. And hindsight is always 20/20. But I ended up going back to college and trying to pick up where I had left off. Before I had left, basketball was preconditioning was getting underway, right? So we were getting in shape, we were lifting, we were running, and that week was took a huge emotional toll on me. And the way that we officially started basketball practice was we had what was called the Hornet 2 mile, which is the worst thing ever. But you had to run 2 miles in 12 minutes. Now, I don't know about you, but basketball isn't necessarily a marathon. You got to have a good baseline conditioning, but it's a lot of stop, go, short sprints, burst of energy on top of some good endurance. My point is I hated running long distance, and I came back, and that's what had to happen was the Hornet 2 mile. And my coach told me that I didn't have to do it. I could, at that time, that I could do it later. But I don't know why. I don't know. I just felt that wasn't fair to my teammates, and so I chose to do it. And I made it like 11 minutes and 59 seconds, and that was like me diving over the finish line at the track there. We used to run at this track Western Michigan had that was adjacent to our the outskirts of our campus, maybe in the beginning of theirs. And man, I was dead. My legs were cramping up so bad. I was dehydrated. Uh, I think I went back to our room and I just passed out from exhaustion. But I'm glad I made it, because if you didn't make the Hornet 2 mile, that meant for the next 2 weeks of practice you had extra conditioning after practice, and it was pretty much hell on earth that the coaches would put you through, because you were expected to show up in shape. And if you didn't make the 2 mile, regardless if you were a long distance runner or not, they viewed that as you not being in shape, and so they were gonna make you be in shape. But looking back on it, I don't know if I was ready. I was just fighting to live. Like the title of this week, I just knew I needed to move on with my life, and the only way to do that was to get back into some sort of normal routine. My college was really good in that they provided a counselor for me to speak to, which really helped a lot, right, to process my thoughts and my feelings, and to cry and to mourn my brother's um, passing. My team and my coach, they were extremely accommodating at first. Um, but man, it took me a long time to deal with my brother's passing, and I didn't even realize it. I mean, like, I had all these feelings that were inside of me, and all this emotion that just would come out at the most random times. Like, we would be in practice and something would happen. I'd be guarding a guy or whatever, and I'd catch an elbow, or maybe I didn't complete a drill like I thought I should have, and I was super hard on myself, even more so than before. And this emotion would just pour out of me, and I would just start crying, and I would walk over literally to the metal bleachers, and I would start punching them, because I was so mad and so upset, and just didn't know how to deal with these feelings that were coming out. And these weren't feelings, like, looking back on it, they weren't feelings that were coming back out necessarily because I wasn't doing things right at practice. They were really underlying feelings of my brother's death, and me mourning. And they just they the practice and the stress of practice and that onset was bringing these things to the top, and I would just erupt. And it wouldn't help. My coach, after his patience for these type of outbursts expired, he would tell me to stop being such a prima donna, and then I'd get even more pissed, and other things, right? Like, we were at a game one time out of state at this tournament, and I got in and did some really good things, and I didn't see the floor again. I don't even think for the rest of the game. And we were playing one of my buddies, so I obviously wanted to make an impression on him and his teammates and the people that were there. And I didn't get back in the game, and I didn't know why. And we ended up losing. And immediately I was like, my natural thought was, wow, if I played some more, we probably could have won that game, or the score could have been closer. All these things go through your head, sometimes selfishly or whatever the reason. And I just remember I was the first one walking down these stairs back into our locker room, and the emotion just came over me again, and I went in the locker room and I grabbed these bins of trash, and I just chucked this thing across the locker room, and trash went flying everywhere. I grabbed another one and started smashing the side of this locker bin with it until I threw it down, and then I just sat down on the bench as teammates came in, because I was in probably a good 20 or 30 seconds before them, because once the buzzer went off on the game and we shook hands, I was pissed and I just wanted to get out of there. And I remember one of my teammates coming in and just being like, holy crap, like, what happened in here? Like, who ransacked did someone like break in the locker room and ransack it? But it was just me not being able to handle those emotions. And I was depressed. I mean, I didn't realize that how much I missed my brother, and how hard it was being away from my family and my sister, my mom and my grandparents. Even though at the time when my brother died, they outwardly they took it way harder than me, and they expressed that um, inside because of my default mode. I think I was feeling those things, but I would kept ignoring them so that I could try to help everybody else. It was just crazy, right? But here again, I found myself in this place where I needed basketball to help me deal with these emotions and to give me kind of an escape. Even though at sometimes, right, like it brought out the worst in me. For the all besides those times, though, it really did help me. It really was therapy. I don't know what I would have done if I would have stayed home and not went back to school and played basketball and had that outlet. Um, I don't know. I can speculate, but I just would have been even more of an emotional wreck, more crazy. I just don't know how else to say it. As the year went on, things got a little bit easier, as they naturally do. The further you get away from an event, I was going home a lot on the weekends just to check on my family and make sure that my mom and my sister were doing okay. And but every time I walked by that room in the basement and by his bedroom, that those emotions would be fresh, right? Those memories would be fresh, and it probably took me a good 4 or 5 years before I could deal with it in an as normal of a way as possible, and not wish that he would be there, and then feel that disappointment when he wasn't. And to be honest with you, basketball is what kept me in school. If I didn't have that to go back and to fall back on, I probably wouldn't have graduated. Not to say my teammates and my roommates and the friends that I had, they were great people, and I met a lot of great people. I still have a lot of great relationships from that time in my life, and I'm grateful for that. But, basketball during that time, I mean, it saved my life. As crazy as that may sound or seem. Yeah. But going back to school after the aftermath of my brother doing that was really tough. Really tough. But I don't know what you have been through. Some people have reached out to me and shared some things. I don't know what you're dealing with, but I know this, right? In life, you will have hard times. You will have trouble. It's the way of the world. You will face a time where you don't know if you can go on, if you can deal with your reality in your life at that time. And I just want to encourage you. One, I want to encourage you, if you're not at a place like that you would build authentic relationships with people, that you can share your secrets, your deepest, toughest things with, that you have that circle of safety with somebody, so that when something like this, God forbid, but a tragedy comes into your life, because if you live long enough, someone will pass away unexpectedly. Something will happen that doesn't make any sense, that just comes completely out of the blue and knocks you off your game, knocks you off your feet. That you have those people in your life that can come around you and help you get back on that horse and ride. Or you have that thing in your life, right? That escape, that healthy escape, not drugs, not pornography, not alcohol, but that healthy escape. Maybe it's working out, maybe it's painting, maybe it's reading, whatever it is. That you have that thing that you can go to, that can help you get over that hump and get through that time in your life. And second, if you're at a place like that in your life right now where something bad has happened to you, directly or indirectly, and you're not sure how you're going to see tomorrow, I feel you. I get it. And I want to encourage you to just reach out to somebody who knows you, somebody that you trust, and share those things with them. Share how hard it is with them. Be real. Just be vulnerable. And that person, I promise you, when you reach out to them and you share with them like that, they're going to be there for you. They're going to be a shoulder for you to cry on. They're going to be an ear for you to listen to, or they'll listen to what you have to say, and be there for you and just love on you, right? Don't look through the keyhole, because there's so much more to life, right? You have so much more to look forward to, and I don't even know how old you are. Marriage, kids, grandkids, career experiences, traveling. Well, I don't know what gets you excited. Eating different foods from different restaurants, meeting new people at networking events, reading the next great mystery novel. I mean, life offers us so much, and these tough times, they don't last. It's like that old saying, tough times don't last, tough people do, right? But I'll end it with this. I don't have to know you. I don't know everybody who watches these videos personally, but I do know this. I know you got it inside of you. Whatever you need to make it through, it's already inside of you. Just got to believe, and you got to ask for help and reach out to someone who loves you, and you can make it to a better day, right? So thank you for watching this tonight and for listening to me somewhat ramble on and then just share this real experience with you. I love you, and I hope that you have a good night. Tomorrow is My Life Monday, where I share just things that have happened in my life in the previous week, and maybe just talk about some random things, whatever God puts on my heart as we progress into the week. But if you found this useful tonight, if you know somebody that's maybe struggling in some area of their life and they don't know how they're going to get through it, they don't know what tomorrow brings, and if they even want to be here tomorrow, be a good friend. Share this with them. Encourage them. Tell them you love them. Tell them you're glad they're a part of your life. So that's it for tonight. I guess I'll see you guys tomorrow. Sleep well.